Welcome to the Traquair House, Innerleithen, Scotland. The name Traquair comes from tra, a word of Celtic origin, meaning a dwelling place or hamlet, and from quair, meaning a stream with a winding course. The Quair waters join the River Tweed a few hundred yards from the Traquair House. King Alexander I signed a royal charter at Traquair in 1107, while William the Lionhearted signed another in 1175. During this period, Traquair was nestled in the middle of a vast forest and provided a superb venue for royal hunting parties who came to hunt wild game. A mural painting in Traquair dates back to the early 1500s and depicts some of the early hunting scenes. Traquair made the transition from a fortified tower house into a family home. In the 1500s, the lairds of Traquair played important roles in public life, with John Stuart, 4th Laird of Traquair, becoming the captain of the Queen's bodyguard to Mary, Queen of Scots. He was host to the Queen when she arrived and visited Traquair with her husband and baby son James in 1566. Traquair in the 19th century was a house in decline. However, they were still able to receive royalty with a visit from George V and Queen Mary in 1932. Later, in 1975, a young American scholar, searching for his roots and sharing the same last name as the house and road, went for a visit, and this is what he found. In 1980 and again in 82, the Traquair Maze was designed and planted. Visitors today can come and wander through the maze, hoping not to get lost. The Traquair House was originally owned by the kings of Scotland. It later became the home of the Earls of Traquair and is still lived in by their descendants, the Maxwell Stewart family. It is well known as the oldest inhabited and most romantic house in Scotland. The 4th Earl, Charles, married the beautiful daughter of the 4th Earl of Nithsdale, Lady Mary Maxwell. She bore 17 children between 1695 and 1711. In the winter of 1715, her sister-in-law, Lady Nithsdale, rode to London, where she successfully organized Charles' escape from the notorious Tower, where he had been sentenced to death for his part in the Jacobite Rising. Two wings extending from either side of the front of the house date from this time, as does the wrought iron screen between them. The harrowed white walls, little windows, and miniature turrets, scarcely changed in 300 years, speak of a vanished, dangerous age and an unfailing, obstinate, historic loyalty to the royal house of Stuart, maintained against all odds. By tradition, another loyal Jacobite, the 5th Earl of Traquair, also Charles, is associated with one of the most romantic episodes in the history of the house, the closing of the bare gates. He closed the gates one late autumn day in 1745 after wishing his guest, Bonnie Prince Charlie, Edward Stuart, a safe journey, with a promise that they would not be opened until the Stuarts were restored to the throne. They have remained closed ever since. Having been involved in power and politics for some 700 years, Traquair has, more recently, experienced quieter times. Still very much a family home, it has remained lately unchanged in a landscape of ancient woodlands, gardens, and the forest of the Tweed Valley. Subsequent earls combined to lose much of the family fortune through poor investments and gambling. Odds of reversing the family fortunes would have been improved if the 8th Earl had married a rich heiress, but the Earl contrived to counter all of his family's best efforts at matchmaking by putting stinging nettles in the beds of his potential mates. Traquair was eventually restored and opened to the public during the 20th century, mostly through the efforts of the 19th Laird, Frank Maxwell Stuart, and his son Peter, the 20th Laird. There are 2 libraries, now restored to their 18th century appearance, and have a collection of books numbering around 3,000. Peter, the 20th Laird, worked tirelessly to modernize and promote the Traquair House. A stateroom was used by Mary, Queen of Scots. At the foot of the bed was the cradle where she rocked her son James, the future king. The dining room displays the best of 18th and 19th century furnishings and paintings. After 5 centuries of unbroken occupation, the house has many family treasures on display, contributing to the personal nature of this fascinating house. A secret room on the top floor of the house, known as the priest's room, served as a sanctuary for John, the 2nd Earl of Traquair, and his wife, Lady Anne Seton, to practice their very controversial Catholic beliefs in post-Reformation Scotland in the 17th century. During this time of religious conflict, Mass had to be celebrated in secret. A hidden escape was made for priests in case the suspicious authorities searched the house. The Traquair House Brewery is located beside the house and was known to be producing beer during the visit of Queen Mary of Scots in 1566. Almost 2 centuries later, a 200-gallon copper was installed in the brew house, although at that time it was only a domestic brewery, producing beer for the estate workers and visitors. It went out of use sometime around 1800, and the equipment lay undisturbed until rediscovered by Peter Maxwell Stuart in 1964. Along with the secret recipe he found, he brought the brewery back into production. Using the original vessels and fermented in oak, Traquair ales are now sold around the world. Traquair House is now open to the public during the summer. The house and grounds can be hired for weddings and other events, such as Shakespearean productions and medieval fairs. Guests can stay in the house as a bed and breakfast, and there's a restaurant that serves meals when the house is open. Peter Maxwell Stuart, together with his wife Flora, devoted 30 years to developing Traquair into the tourist attraction that it is today. It is now the family home of Catherine, 21st Lady of Traquair, and her husband Mark Mueller and their 3 children. Tucked away in a lush valley, Traquair stands amidst woodlands and beautiful gardens near the river Tweed. Spanning nearly 1,000 years of Scottish history, Traquair today is a unique attraction for all ages. You can trace the footsteps of 27 Scottish monarchs as you explore the house, gardens, and grounds. The current Stuart family is active in all aspects of Traquair House, keeping it as a living piece of history.